Heather, you like those venues, and you like those promotions because the fans are obviously involved. They're heavily involved. They're right there on the ring. Post COVID-19 world, I mean, you're not gonna have people banging on the ring. I don't know when people are gonna be able to be shoulder to shoulder. What are you thinking as far as these shows go?
Yeah, I'm like genuinely, I'm so curious to know how this is gonna go down once shows start up again, because there's already like people promoting shows, and I have one in June tentatively in Texas because they're opened up, but they can only have 25% capacity. And I'm like, what does that look like? And what does it look like to sell merch and take pictures with people? I'm just genuinely curious about like how we're going to live life, because we have to live life at some point. And like, I want to be as careful as possible, and I don't want to just open things up, but we're going to have to start living with it. And that's going to mean a lot of changes to our lives and how we do things. And I'm really curious about how wrestling is going to maintain with that, so we'll see about that.
That's going to be the real problem with, you put the cap on the amount of fans. I mean, 25%, like that's what promoter is going to be like, this is a good investment to run this show, Dev, you're the fucking money guy. Go for it.
So we actually talked about this before you came on. Talked about, okay, let's say a show in LA, right? They can only have 50 people. You're gonna have to start charging $120 per person in that venue in order to make it make sense. If you have to be spaced out 6 feet away or whatever the case is, you're gonna have to charge an arm and a leg to get in the door to make it worthwhile for the boys or the girls. Make it worthwhile for the fans. Make it worthwhile for anyone who's gonna buy, the online version of this at some point, the iPay-per-view, whatever. So I'm curious can you say who you're working for out in Texas right now?
It's Hurricane Pro.
Okay.
Yeah. Which it's that show has been on the books for a very long time, and they're kind of like seeing again, if it's worth it and if they can run it and if it makes sense and if people will do the show.
Yeah. Have you seen the ticket prices that are listed? No,
I don't know. I talked to one of them the other day about it because we're still just trying to like navigate. And I've worked with them a lot. I'm their women's champion. I really love working for them. But also I have to take into consideration, do I want to fly? Do I want to be around people that I'm not sure how they've been doing this quarantine? But at the same time, I need to make money. So it's like,
you know what my theory is? Right now, if you go to an airport or you fly in a plane, it's probably the safest place right now in the world, because they're like the ones that are most under pressure. So you got to maintain that high, cleanliness and all that kind of stuff. It's just like restaurants. If you ever hear a restaurant had like a problem, right? A health problem, you go there the week later, it's the cleanest place in the world. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up on that. And by the way, every restaurant has cockroaches. Just letting you know that.
Well, I do think that in terms of flying, I do think the amount of people flying is lower, which makes it better than obviously before. But it's just, here's my analogy is when you're driving, you don't worry about yourself getting into an accident. You worry about the other drivers on the road. So I'm not worried about how I'm handling it. I'm worried about how everybody else is handle it around me. And that's my biggest concern. It's such a weird like conundrum too, because I don't want people to think I'm being irresponsible either. Or I don't want them to think Hurricane Pro is being irresponsible, because I don't think they're irresponsible people. Everyone just wants to go back to life, but you got to do some research for that.
You never know, because by the time the show comes around, like they might just be like, yeah, sorry, we got to cancel it. But there's nothing wrong with keeping plans to have a show. And then just as you get closer, you see where it's at. I was telling Devin earlier, like it just seems like it's always like one step forward, 2 steps back. You never know what's going on. None of these politicians know what's happening. They say one thing and then the next day they say, oh, never forget that. Let's go this way. It's like that. We're wearing face masks. At first they were like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It won't really help that much anyways. And then they're like, oh, put them on. Mandatory now. You got to have them on. It's just, everything's up in the air. The politicians are being put to the test right now, and they're getting exposed. Like they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
So
yeah, well, and I think the problem is everybody wants answers right now, and they're just feeding them whatever they can instead of being like, when we know, we'll let you know. Because that's the smart way to do it. But then everyone's like, we need answers. And that's why everyone's protesting, because they're like, we want answers, but they need to just take a step back and realize that science takes a little bit more time than that.
Very much.
I also panic read every day.
The first 2 weeks of
The first 2 weeks of the quarantine, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep. I was up reading every article, was on that website where it's showing you all the numbers. Oh shit, 20 more people died in the last half a second of me reading this. Like, okay, cool.